What I would like, fucking John Browning, what I would like to see in theater in the coming year sort of incorporates everything that everybody has just said. Theater needs to be more accessible to people, because just having conversations with people our age that are not involved with theater will completely disregard theater as a form of media or as a form of education or anything. And that's... I mean, if we get the word out about theater, because it just makes me angry. I'm sorry. But theater, sort of similar to what John Browning is saying, is one of the most intimate experiences that you can have, because you can empathize and be extremely involved while being at a safe distance, and it's important. I think it's vital, and we need to get more people to be involved and to see it and to support and learn and love each other and build a cake made of rainbows and sunshine. That's all I'm done. She doesn't even go here.
We're back to the same topic.
I'd love to see new playwrights and new plays getting read and produced, possibly. What with the huge response that Alice got and that the various shows in Mega Hot got, I would just love to see people exploring what new characters and worlds they can present to people to play with, and what new important things they can dig up and shove in audiences' faces.
Well put.
So, as a university student, how do you think what's being produced over there, university, is going to be able to affect kind of this community of theater we have here in Sonoma County as a whole?
Facepalm.
That's an awesome question.
Are you talking about the previous season or this upcoming season?
This upcoming.
Okay.
What can we? I don't know. What can help it?
If there was some magical way to get non-theater majors and their friends and family to come to shows and see that theater isn't boring and has important things to say, that'd be fantastic. If we could find that magical thing. Yeah, advertising. Which I think they're actually going down a good path with Flaggermouse for that. This is the first time a show has gotten, like, a lot of advertising all around campus in different forms of media, like podcasts and websites and all this stuff. If they keep violently pushing shows like that, I think more people might come to see it, hopefully. Violently in a good way. But I'm no expert.
I think also is the fact that with Sonoma State, you have a very... It's like, we know college students. It's like, the theater program is made up of college students. We have a good idea of what our audience we're shooting for, and I don't think in the past they've done a good job about playing to that. Like, I know theater... I just feel like there's a lot of times with, in certain companies, not just with Sonoma State, it's like I get this impression from them, it's like, we are so high-minded and so high-beam with our theater, you know. It's like, Fat Pig was really well received, and I think it was because it pulled a lot of kids that don't usually go to theater, because it was maybe one, it was a shorter show, but it was contemporary, and they could more easily get into it and reach in it. And I think that you have to recognize who you are, who your audience is that you're trying to get. And so I think that if they are to take more steps like that, and I'm not saying that they have to do it all the time, that they can keep up their classical or their big and rich stuff, but to at least every once in a while play to the, this average student, the average person that doesn't go to theater, something that they can more easily grasp and get stuff out of. Because there was a lot to get out of Fat Pig. It wasn't just a stupid show. But at the same time, I think it was a lot easier, and a lot of students that don't go to theater were constantly coming up to other actors and saying, like, hey, that was really good, man.
And another thing I think about that, another great tool that some of our shows this year have used really well, like you mentioned Invalid and Cyrano and definitely Alice, was the aspect of the audience being an interactive aspect of the show, and they're participating in it. And I feel like that aspect of theater, at least around Sonoma County, has sort of been lost a little bit. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about Invalid, was the interaction I had with the show, and the actors kind of breaking the fourth wall. It's definitely one of the big pleasures I had with working with you in Alice was the aspect of letting the audience become a part of the show. And I think that's also one thing, because, I mean, even if it's a show that doesn't do that, the audience is still a part of it, but that's just, I think, one good way of sending that message.
Yeah, I mean, the audience is always a part of the show, whether they want to be or not. They're there. Even if they don't say a word, they're still contributing to what kind of performance it's going to be. I mean, you talk to any actor, and like, man, that audience sucked because they were just really quiet. But you could talk to the audience members afterward, and you're like, we really enjoyed it. And so it's interesting sometimes, some of the energy that you can get from the audience members can, if they're quiet, you're like, oh, they're not enjoying as much, but they still could be really having a good time. Other times, I mean, when you're doing a comedy show, you get lots of laughs, you get it moving, and it just really makes it an enjoyable experience for everybody. So it's really important, I think, also educating people about, you know, if you are an audience member, whether you come to a show or not, I mean, your importance of being there, it makes a difference. I could have worded that totally better, but anyway, but yeah.
Nick, what are some of your hopes and
Fur.
More fur.
Yeah, fur coats for everyone, and a Thanksgiving goose on every Sunday. No, I'd like to see, just like the aspect of community that like Lito was saying, more people like being willing to work together, and like, yeah, the fear is like, oh, we'll lose our audience, but it's like, even if you're running shows at exactly the same time, I mean, really the only people that should miss out on those shows are the actors in them. Obviously, they can't go out and see them, you know, unless there's like off-time matinees so they can make it work, you know. But it's like, if you are, like, you could watch one show and then like the next weekend go watch another show. I mean, I think some theaters can help with that by, you know, by having ticket prices that are affordable, or doing them in ways that can work, you know. But I also understand that you have to run as a business, you know, so I'm not saying like sell yourself out of house and home, but you know, like, you gotta get people in there. And something that's a big problem with just with our society in general is the everything about, like John Browning said, on the internet. You know, everything is, and it's beyond like the gross things you can find on the internet. It's like, you know, you have friends on the internet that you talk to more than you see real friends in real life, you know. Mm-hmm. You have, like, everything is through it, you know, and so it's like every single day it feels like there's less and less human contact in the world, you know what I mean? Soon enough we'll be, like, taking babies out of ladies and setting them on computer tables that raise them into humans, you know? So it's like, we're not even going to have nurses to do it, you know? It's like, I imagine like really big suction tanks.
Ew.
If anyone's thinking of writing a movie with like, robot suction babies out of vaginas. But, yeah, you know, I'm just like, so, and it's similar to what, you know, I've heard some people say they call like the theater, that's like their church that they go to. It's like, or that's like what they hold in that like high esteem, you know, and I think that in like the same aspect, like, not that I'm saying theater is a religion, but in the same aspect, everyone that goes to church kind of has that, like, connection with the people they go with, you know, and it's like a chance. You see when we come out of our shows, like, everyone hugs each other, you know, and, like, touches each other, and the more that you do that, I mean, the more you keep, like, real life alive, you know. It's like, soon enough, you won't need to do that anymore. I mean, people believe they don't need to do that now, you know, and I think that's, like, we're constantly fighting against films, you know, so... like the aspect of being real, everything changing. I mean, pretty much what everyone's already said, you know, just like more people coming together and like. But the truth of the matter is, right now is the hardest time to do that. It's not. This will be the worst part, you know. This will be the. It's like we all just got knocked off our horse or whatever, you know, metaphor you want to use. Like we're all laying on the ground on our backs right now. It's like. We're either going to get up and fight for it, or we're going to lay down and take it, you know.
To change the subject a little bit, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
You were saying something about real life. What was it like being an imaginary character?
Being an imaginary character? For that role, it was weird because...
I'm sorry, which play is this?
Mr. Marvel.
Mr. Marvel. Oh, yeah. So it was... For Bradley, it was... Yeah, although I was playing an imaginary character, it was, at the same time, I still felt very real, like a real person. in that I still had all these emotions. I mean, maybe it would have been different if I had played the Cactus or the Sunflower, where it was so, over the top. But I felt at the same time, I felt like I was still playing, although I played somebody that was pretty different from me. I felt like everything was normal, and in my own world, the imaginary world, I still felt like everything was real and everything was still going on. And I guess that maybe it made it a little more freer though to do it, because when I see somebody go like this, I know they're holding a cup of tea really easily, and then I could go along and just really fall into like that childhood imagination and like be able to play with it. So I guess it was a little free as an actor, but at the same time, it still was grounded in real stuff and real emotions. So.
And so the role of Mad Hatter takes place much the same thing. We can think of it as that way, but Alice in Wonderland can actually be a real place. Whether we know for sure that your character is it's on the imagination. We don't know quite for sure whether the Mad Hatter is real or not.
I guess not with this adaptation that Tony Giannissi and Merlin Sell had written, but I guess my kind of approach to it was John had us do an exercise where we had like a character history, and I thought, well, I didn't want to think of myself as sort of like a figment, or I kind of wanted to have like kind of a person. So in that exercise, I kind of created this man who was the Mad Hatter, and then just sort of the rehearsal process was building and kind of expounding upon that, building on that, and it was really fun. Definitely it was very physically challenging to do that role, and the costume alone added about 6 or 7 pounds, and certainly I had a time when my voice went out, and creating that character was very difficult and very straining at times, but it was very, very, very fulfilling to go there.
Now, Crystal, how often do you find that you could actually go to an historic event or place and time for your character in Mr. the Third? I know Shakespeare really kind of twisted around his history, so I don't know. How was it? Where did you draw from?
For Lady Anne.
Yes.
Well, Beulah had a whole bunch of history behind the character and her relationship to Richard, which was really interesting, especially about their childhood together, that they were actually childhood friends. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest challenge for me in that role was to find a reason to want to go with him, because so often it can be played where she's just kind of pitiful. And Beulah didn't want that to be that way, and I didn't want it to be that way, because she has power, and she is kind of a powerhouse because she keeps on going up against him and winning most of the time. But so I didn't want it to feel like she had given up her fight when she chose to go with him, and that was the biggest challenge, was to actually show that she wanted it. And apparently she wanted it a lot. So it worked out well. Yeah.
Well, I think that's about all the time we have.